Hello, everyone. I suppose we've got enough of us. Should we get started? And then, if we need to give everybody a little bit of a catch up, we can do that as well. Um, Annie, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Just to start with, does anyone not comfortable with this being recorded? I think most people have their cameras off anyway, but we are going to record it so that anyone who couldn't make it can watch it. Nice. Also, if I pause in the middle of my speech, I'm just making sure everyone can get into the call. Okay. So hello, I'm Annie, and I'm a project manager at TherapyBox. I work really closely on Predictable and lately our ElevenLabs integration. So joining to also discuss the integration is Swapnil, CEO and co-founder of TherapyBox, and Richard Tate, who works very closely with the M&D Association. Okay, so a small introduction to the main things we'll be covering. So Predictable, which a lot of you know, is a text-to-speech app developed by us at TherapyBox. And within that, we offer a range of voices. So a lot of these being third-party voices. So we have standard device voices, Google online voices, Speak Unique, Ella, Model Talker. There's another one, Voice Keeper. And part of the reason Richard's joining us is because he's interested and said, hey, there's this cool new voices available, and I think you should look into offering it. So for people who are completely unaware of what ElevenLabs is, it's a new AI-based voice platform that uses deep learning to produce really realistic human-like speech. Like a lot of the other voice companies, they have a range of voices that you can choose from, or your own custom pro voice. So in terms of the webinar, what will be the sort of structure of it? We'll start with discussing what ElevenLabs is and why there seems to be so much excitement about it. Then I'll go on to discuss the integration with Predictable, so how to set it up, showing the voice play, discussing some of the other features we've implemented, especially for offline use. And then Richard can go through how you can get a voice or help provide those for those who need them. And then we can go through any questions and a quick summary. So yeah, the first point is, why is ElevenLabs so exciting and a necessary addition to Predictable's range of voices? So passing over to Richard to cover off that one.
Yeah, and thank you for asking me, and thank you to everybody that's come. So I work with the M&D Association, and the M&D Association supports around 5,000 people living with motor neuron disease across England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And we support people with M&D to be informed about all their options for voice banking through training and education of health and social care professionals, and of course, people living with M&D themselves. Which voice banking service a person with M&D chooses is entirely up to them. And our role is to give them all the information they need to make that choice. We're actually totally agnostic on this technology because it's not our decision. However, we do a lot of work to ensure that whatever voice banking service a person living with M&D themselves choose will work in whatever assistive tech AAC they choose to use now and in the future. We simply cannot have their voice banking choices constrained by the AAC devices themselves. And that's why I've been having so much fun working with the guys at TherapyBox now, and actually over the past years, at first to enable a cappella and then Speak Unique and now ElevenLabs, and along with other stuff. So all I want to say, I'm going to say it now, they've actually heard it before, but thank you to the guys at TherapyBox for supporting people living with motor neuron disease, wherever they are, by ensuring that whatever voice banking software they choose to use will always work in Predictable. And I'm going to hand over to whoever's next.
Okay, so that's me. So next I'll show how we can set up ElevenLabs and Predictable. So the first step, obviously, you need a Predictable account and you need to create an ElevenLabs account. Sorry, that's the wrong screen. So when you come to ElevenLabs, This is the screen that you're taken to. So you can create your voice on this. Predictable. You can come to my account at the bottom, press on API keys, and from there you need to create a key. So you can give this any name. Give it a weird random name to start. And then if you click create, it will generate one. You will only be able to see this one time. Sorry, it's not loading.
And while Annie's grabbing that key, just to add a little bit of additional info in here, imagine API key is a alternative that ElevenLabs offers instead of a username password that is something that is familiar to us. So they have a slightly different approach. You typically expect to go into predictable and say, here's my say, a certain provider's username password, fetch me all the voices that I've got. Instead of username password, they offer the approach of API key. So it's a single string, but it's quite a long string that's coming up. And just one comment as well. I think because you're sharing your screen, if you project towards the microphone, we'll hear you without you cutting in and out.
Okay, I'll raise my iPad up a bit so that you can hopefully hear me a little bit better. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, so it won't let me copy the whole thing for some reason, so I'll add an SK and an underscore in front of it. But if I then go to predictable, I can go to the speech screen, select ElevenLabs from the voice engines. I've obviously already used this, so it is connecting to my voices already, but just to show you how it works, I will do it again. So I'm just adding this because it didn't copy correctly, but yours probably will. And then you just click connect my voices. And they load. So on my ElevenLabs account, I have a lot of voices that are available. And then I also have my Pro voice at the bottom. So I created that with just over half an hour of recording. I was just reading out a book to record it. So I was worried that it would be a bit audiobooky, but it turned out really well. So I'll just play that quickly. I will play it later, playing some more speech. So let's go to the main screen predictable, and I can show that again. As played. So I can't hear it through mine. Let me type something in. Hello. My name is Annie, and this is example of my 11 voice.
So, Annie, because of the sharing, we are not able to hear your voice output.
Oh dear. Okay, let me. Sorry, I tested this with the router earlier and it was working. Let me just go onto here and reshare. Okay, let's try that again. I think it's not catching up to see the right screen. Swapna, have you joined?
Yeah.
Universal Core.
Would you like me to try?
You can do, but I think I had it.
Ah, okay.
Hello.
Okay. All right. So my ElevenLabs app, sort of voice as such, but I will hand over to Annie because I think she's more ready to share than I am.
I don't know if I'm sharing anymore because I think you've. So,
Okay.
we can just go with yours if you want. I don't mind. I have my grid set up.
Okay. All right. I'll come out and you can go.
Okay, perfect. I think I just missed that tick to share the device's audio.
It would be nice if they put that as a default yes, wouldn't they? That would just make life so much easier. The number of times I've done that, I'm just like, oh my God.
Okay. Okay.
Hello, my name is Annie.
Did that come through? Okay, perfect. Hopefully you can hear. It sounds a lot like me. And with only half an hour of recording, I think that's pretty impressive. So let me get back on track. So that's showing quickly the quality of my voice and how easy it is to set up. So that's completely set up within Predictable now, and you can say whatever you want. Obviously, a key... someone else started presenting. Okay, let's see my own screen. If you can see mine, that's okay.
I'm not sure who it is. It's somebody showing as unknown.
Okay. I think I can unpin. But I will take that over again.
While Annie's sort of switching that across, so just to quickly bring everybody up to speed with where we are. So we need two accounts, one created on ElevenLabs. That is outside the realm of influence for Predictable as an app. So you need to create a voice with ElevenLabs, and I think Richard is going to talk a little bit about the pro voices and how to access them a bit later on as well. So I'll not steal your thunder, Richard, in any way. I'll leave that with you. But once you created an account with ElevenLabs, you then got a bunch of different options to pick from. And you can firstly create a sort of a standard account with a limited amount of wording available, or you can then get a pro voice as well, which Richard can talk a little bit to shortly. And once you get the pro voice, you then get to choose the higher quality voice production as well, which is what Annie had just used. And once that's ready, you then simply come to Predictable, create a Predictable account if you don't have one already, and then go to ElevenLabs, put in that API key that Annie had used, and then voila, you've got all your voices ready to use from there on as well. Annie, are you back?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. All right, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay. So actually, the next step was to hand over to Richard to discuss the difference between the two types of voices you can create within ElevenLabs.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to. So there are two types of which I think I've covered a little bit already. The first is called instant, and where ElevenLabs recommends that between 1 to 3 minutes of recordings or a combination of speech and recordings should create an instant voice. But all the clients I've been working with, we've been using around 30 seconds of speech or recordings, and that creates I think quite a reasonable voice bank, and it's available instantly. And the other one is just like Annie was saying about the Pro Voice, where actually 11Labs recommend, I think, at least 30 minutes and actually optimally 3 hours of recordings. James Robson has raised his hand, and I'm going to let him ask that question. Go on, James.
Richard, thank you. Just a question in terms of for the instant. If it's a combination of speech and other things, basically you compile a file of various things and then add that in, rather than having to kind of record something, pause it, record something. How does the process of compiling different sources of speech work for the instant?
Yeah, so I think you can put, without checking it, I think you can upload something like 25 different files, a maximum of 25, plus a recording of your natural speech. But what I do, exactly what you're saying, is that there are people that have videos of them talking and other people talking and some background noise. So what I do is I go into something like Audacity, that free app, and then I just edit down and just take but kind of quality rules here. So the best quality people have, and just upload it to via just convert to an MP3 and then upload that.
Okay, great, thanks.
And for the Pro Voice, so mine I did in I read a book for 20 minutes because I got bored, and then I uploaded that to the Pro Voice, and I'm not sure. I'll be happy to play mine, but later on, or did you want to play mine now, Annie, or swap now?
It's up to you. Maybe later on, so you can have a chance to.
Yeah, good. Yeah. I just say the final thing that I'm not sure if this is coming now or later, but if you're a person living with M&D, or you're a professional that works with people with M&D, in order to get your license from the M&D Association, you write to us at communicationaids.com, and just be sure to be clear that there is a diagnosis of M&D. But we can talk about that later as well. I'm handing over swap now.
Perfect. So, Annie, I suppose we might want to talk a little bit about when we first started talking about ElevenLabs, when Richard came very excitedly talking about this new technology that he wanted us to integrate in Predictable. Richard, I think you also talked a little bit about the pros and cons. Should we discuss the pros and cons, and then what we did from a Predictable perspective to overcome those pros and cons?
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for. There is a video that will soon be posted on the M&D Association that details at length the cons and the pros. But there are 3 cons in which we need to recognise. The first is that for speech that is unique and spontaneous, that on ElevenLabs you need to be connected online. So it's an online connection. Later on, as Swapna will talk about that need, that's no longer necessary after the first time. The second is that there is a limit on the number of characters or the number of words in which you can type every month. So 11Labs have provided free of charge the number one, the kind of top quality license, and that allows for about 10 hours of spontaneous speech. Now, I've been checking with the M&D associations globally, and Bridging Voices and the Peter Scott Morgan Foundation, who were instrumental in getting this working, and thanks to them, they've had a look at this, and even the most ardent user of ElevenLabs Voice with M&D is only using about 60% of that limit. And every month the limit rolls over. So the long and the short of it is I'd be delighted if anybody told me that they are getting close to hitting the limit, because that is really great news. And if there is something like that, there is an option to switch off the kind of auto charging, in which happens after that. Or better still, contact us at communicationaids@mndassociation.org and let's talk about it. And the third one, please come back to me, because I've had an age-related mental block.
Would that be the latency, Richard?
Yeah, the latency was the one that we talked about first.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So being online, latency and the character limit. So those are some of the challenges that Richard spotted with this option. And Annie, I think you then took that away to see what we could do. But before I hand over to you, I think James has got his hand up, so we'll cover off his comment or question.
Yeah, sorry, just another quick one. Presumably, it's not limited to people with MND. This voice banking could be used by anybody as long as they have recordings of their voice, or they're able to capture it before their voice deteriorates.
Currently, the arrangement is it's free for people living with MND globally.
Yeah.
I know that there are works behind the scenes for other conditions, for other conditions to get a similar arrangement, but that's, as far as I know, that's work in progress.
That's purely the commercials as opposed to the appropriateness of the technology. So if somebody's had an acquired brain injury, the use case is still the same. It's just the funding of it is around MND. Is that right?
Yes, in my opinion, it's purely the commercials. I think there are plenty of use cases, but as applies for all the voice banking services, of course. Okay. So I also did recall finally the second shortcoming, and that is that ElevenLabs can't repair voices the way that other services like Speak Unique can. So that means that if your client has significant dysarthria, it's not going to make it sound any better. It's just going to be the voice. However, if your client does have recordings, even for 30 seconds, then it's a possibility. And actually, it may have benefits, because these using 30 seconds of recordings or what is based on their voice and only their voice. So there are possibilities, and but there is a place for voice repair as well, and it's just down to the person with MD and their treating speech therapist. Okay, I'll hand over.
Thanks. So Annie, those were the challenges that we were thrown. What did we do?
So I'm so sorry, I unmuted wrong time. So mainly we were focused on the offline and the latency problem, because that's something that we can try and do something about. So a lot of users use predictable offline. This is a complete solution, but I think it's pretty good. So when you speak anything in predictable, it goes to history. As long as you have that setting turned on, it's on by default. So when you're using ElevenLabs, what we have done is that when you speak something, it will save that recording and attach it to that phrase in history. So if you then re-speak anything from history, or type it into the message window and it matches with something from history, it will use the recording rather than fetching from ElevenLabs again. So that won't use your quota. The latency will be reduced, and also you can access that recording offline, so you don't need to be online for that. Second, that also works for any phrase in your grid. So if you play anything from your grid with your ElevenLabs voice, it will save that recording, so you can play it offline, the latency will be reduced, and it won't use your quota. Now that's obviously all good if you're going to go through and speak every single phrase. But some people might want to be prepared for that scenario. So we also have the option to download your grid ahead of time. So you can see here that it says download grid. I've reduced my phrase bank a little bit. I think the default predictable phrase bank is around 120 phrases. So it will take quite a few minutes to download. So I've just reduced that a little bit, but I will download it now. It also gives a rough guide of how many characters. So the default predictable grid will use about 3,000 characters from the limit. So if I confirm, this will start downloading. I will try and get this to go as far as possible, but obviously I'm sharing, so it depends.
So, Annie, while that's downloading, just to sort of recap and just make sure that I'm getting this right. So, if I was to construct a statement, my name is Swapnil, and speak it once, it then gets remembered by predictable. And then if I make the same statement, my name is Swapnil, it no longer needs to be connected and will play instantly because it's saved offline. Is that what's happening?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. And what you made another point about grid. So the grid are sort of pre-existing phrases in your phrase bank. So this is the sort of the other side of predictable, where you got sort of pre-stored messages. You can use any voice to speak those out. So I could say, I'm ready for lunch, get me a drink of water, please, and so on. So we can tap on it on a case-by-case basis, and that phrase will also be stored offline with ElevenLabs voice. And the next time you use the same phrase, you won't have to be online anymore. And the other really nice side effect is that the latency is down to 0 because it's stored locally, so it immediately speaks it out. Now, for those who are already using ElevenLabs, you might have noticed that it takes maybe about 300 to 500 milliseconds to return a result. So we can bring that down to 0 milliseconds because we are fetching it locally instead of ODA. That's the advantage of it. You seem to have downloaded all those 45 phrases. So, Annie, over to you.
Yes. I can see that James has his hand up, so do you want to? We can cover that question off as well.
Yeah, sorry, just another quick one. So if you are offline and want to say something that you haven't had already stored, will it default to one of the locally stored voices? What happens if you try to say something new that hasn't been downloaded and you're offline?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
Sorry. So it won't be able to connect because ElevenLabs purely works offline. So that's why we're trying to give people as best of a chance. So if you regularly use predictable online, there's a lot of statements that you might be repeating, or at least you can get your point across. But that's why there's a problem, and someone can help you switch your voice over.
You would need to switch it manually. It wouldn't say, I'm offline, I don't have this downloaded locally, and default to one of the, I guess, less unique voices.
Yeah, that's the difficulty, because if we automatically switched someone over to a standard voice, if they lost internet for, say, literally a minute, it's difficult to know when they want to switch back.
Okay.
So, yes.
But it's a really good point as well, actually, James. I think taking that decision away from a manual perspective for the user and doing it locally at the predictable level is something that we can sort of work through. So maybe Annie, we and the devs could sort of think through if it is ElevenLab and we've temporarily switched over, when we get access to online again, we can try and switch it back. But we can take that away, James, and see what we could do. Yeah.
Okay, so then now I have my grid downloaded. So you can see that by every phrase, there is a little recording icon. It's important to note a lot of people do my message banking or attach their own recordings. When you download the grid with ElevenLabs, it will not overwrite any of those recordings. So it will only download it for any that you don't already have a recording attached for. I'm hoping I shared with someone else. Shared in between. Did you hear that?
No, I think we got the same.
Okay. I think we've got the impression of what my voice sounds like now. So but that's okay. Someone keeps sharing their screen. So if you could all just make sure that that's not you, that would be really useful. So this is speaking in my voice now, and it uses there's no latency, and it's using the same recording, so it will sound the same every time. Because ElevenLabs does a lot of different intonation. So that's one way that you can recognise if this is working. Okay. So that is the offline features that we've provided to try and overcome those hurdles of ElevenLabs, because it's slightly different to any of the other voice providers that are currently available. I think we've touched on already getting voices through M&D Association and bridging voices in Scott Morgan. Don't know if there's anything, Richard, that you missed saying or you want to cover off. If not, we can just jump.
Yeah, I just want to say that we want to make it as easy and as straightforward as possible. So for on our side, for the M&D Association, the person with M&D does not need to be registered with us. They never need to be registered in the future either, and they can just write to us, or a professional working with them can write to us at Communication Aid at M&D Association, confirming that they have a diagnosis of M&D, and that is enough. So coming this way, we don't want to share any more personal data anywhere than is absolutely necessary, and that's why we've done it this way. Going other ways, you may need to declare all sorts of other information, and that's understandable, but from our perspective, that's how we're going to do it, and we will try and turn things around as quickly as we can. And Rachel Brown, who is the manager of the Communication Aid Service, is on the call, so she can hold me to account if I say anything wrong.
I'm not hearing her objecting, so she must agree. Excellent. Annie, are we opening up to Q&A now?
Yeah, that is next. So if anyone has questions, I can see that someone asked in the chat that they can't see it as a voice option at the moment. This is still a pre-release feature, so it should be released in the next week or two. But there will, if you follow our social media, if you're on our mailing list, we will be letting you know when that happens. So it will be available shortly.
And just to add to that as well, and it's going to be a free upgrade for all existing predictable users. So you won't have to worry about costs from predictable perspective. And once you get the upgrade available, you can simply upgrade, and then you'll see the feature of ElevenLabs as we see it now in settings. And then all the offline feature sets that Annie was describing will, of course, be included there as well. So the one thing that you may want to do, if you are keen on getting started, would be to start looking into your ElevenLabs accounts and get yourself set up, get a voice in, because it's certainly getting integrated in Predictable, as you can see, and it'll certainly be available shortly. So if you wanted to, you can start looking at your voices. Richard?
You reminded me something that I hadn't said, and that's that for professionals, if you work with people living with M&D, then get in touch with us at Communication Aid at mndassociation.org, and we can provide you with a free license for 3 months, 3 months only. But it should be long enough for you to create a few instant voices and your own professional voices, which you can then download examples for and load into whatever apps your patient uses, or however you want to talk about it. So you can make your own mind up and just figure out how it works. So just get in touch, and we can send. We've also literally. Do the people with M&D know? Thank you, Rachel. The people with M&D get unlimited time licenses. There is no limit to that. Once they have it, they have the maximum available on ElevenLabs, forever. So thank you for raising that. And we have literally, the ink isn't even dried yet, but we have put some step-by-step guides. We have made those available for you as professionals, and for people living with MD, and also, more importantly, to how to create a pro voice. Because there are many steps in this, particularly if your voice has changed or has lost. So we've made it as simple as we can, and a big credit to the guys at Bridging Voices over in the States, because I used a lot of their words, perhaps even all of them. So anyway.
There's one really nice feature that I think we could show you very quickly as well. And I think Richard spurred us on in terms of thinking about this feature as well. And technology, TTS, we've been working with this for 12 years. But what blew my mind was when you record a voice with English script for 30 minutes, you can then go on to using your voice in any other language beyond English as well. Now, just for me to illustrate what I'm talking about here is that if you look at, say me, I'm bilingual, I speak actually 3 languages, so I can speak in English, Hindi, and Marathi, and ElevenLabs supports Hindi and English, 2 languages. I've created my voice using English script, but I can now put in Devanagari script, which is the Hindi script that we know, which is entirely different to the Latin script we use for English.
This is what your predictable voice sounds like.
And it will still speak with my voice in Hindi. And that is just mind-blowing. So you don't really need more than 30 seconds of your recording and to switch between languages that it is entirely not recorded for either. So what we would need for this particular example, and it might be an English text to show how your voice in English sounds, and then put in a Hindi text, and then we'll have to set our voice for secondary language in ElevenLabs as well. So,
I've done that. So
okay.
do you want to direct me of which to press on the word prediction so that it makes something that makes sense?
Okay, so the left me, which is me. So yeah, chahata, which is the one on the right. So I'm calling it out as if I'm assuming everybody knows. Sorry about that. Okay. Or, yes, karna, which is the left option. Yeah, perfect. You can speak this.
मैं चाहता करना.
Very good. So, so I would like to do is loosely speaking what Annie's just said. And I can confirm that it sounded like her voice, and I can confirm, being a native speaker of that language, that it sounded pretty convincing that Annie can speak Hindi. And Annie, can you speak any Hindi?
Absolutely not. I think by the fact that you had to guide me to what to press on the word prediction.
Yes, and Annie could very quickly become multilingual in 28 other languages besides the 2 that she's just demonstrated. So that just sort of gives a bit of flexibility, and you can see in Predictable what she was able to do is use the same voice for 2 different languages with the multi-language mode in Predictable. So she's not really leaving the screen, she's just constructing statements as we go along within Predictable. So it works really nicely for bilingual or trilingual users to use those languages without losing their ElevenLabs voice as such. Sorry, James had a hand up.
Richard's just answered it. It was around whether you could record in a non-English voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the answer is that you can in 31.
Yep. Yeah, perfect.
But I think the interesting thing is that I've only recorded mine in English, and it speaks Hindi and Spanish and everything else in an accent that doesn't necessarily sound as British as you'd think that it would, which is quite impressive.
Yeah.
Nikki Thompson, thank you for your question. She said, please can we hear more samples of the quality of the voice that is produced? If you want, I don't have the, oh yeah, you go. And also, I don't have the I can't do mine in Predictable, but I can show the quality of my voice in the ElevenLabs app itself, if that's of use.
Do you want to share? Because I think it would be nice to hear a voice that isn't just mine.
Okay.
To prove that it's me.
Yeah. So I'm going to share now.
Make sure you tick that button.
Okay. Let's have a, yeah. Right. I've ticked the button. Thank you. Let's see if you can see my screen.
Yeah.
You can. Just so I'm going to actually. I'm a big fan of Harry Potter. And so this is like a summary of the first chapter of the first book of Harry Potter. And this is me talking about it using the instant voice, which is 30 seconds of my speech. And we'll just listen to a bit of Harry Potter. Hopefully it'll play soon. The story begins in the non-magical world, focusing on the Dursley family. Vernon Dursley notices strange occurrences around him during the day, such as people in cloaks celebrating in the streets and a cat reading a map. That night, Albus Dumbledore, a powerful wizard, and Professor McGonagall, another witch, arrive at the Dursleys' home. Oh, very exciting. So I'll just switch to the pro voice, which was I mentioned is 20 minutes of me reading a book, and we'll just listen to that again. The story begins in the non-magical world, focusing on the Dursley family. Vernon Dursley notices strange occurrences around him during the day, such as people in cloaks celebrating in the streets and a cat reading a map. That night, Albus Dumbledore, a powerful wizard, and Professor McGonagall, another witch, arrive at the Dursleys' home. Yeah, so I'll stop sharing and I'll hand back.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where I forget that you're not talking. So much like.
Yeah. My wife is from Hong Kong, and she regularly laughs at me at my attempts to speak Chinese. So I just put some Chinese script in there and I played it to her, and laugh no longer.
That is amazing. And, you know, I just want to cover off any other questions there may be. But I also wanted to sort of make one other comment, but I'll just pick up any other questions, queries, clarification, observations. One thing I would say is that, you know, while the quality of voices is excellent, we all can hear it. I feel like it is more a sort of firing of a starting gun, and I'm sure there are many bespoke custom voice providers who would also be sort of striving to offer similar solutions. And I would be excited to see what's coming up in the pipeline, and sort of, you know, that is all going to help and benefit the users in the community as well. So I'm sure this is just the beginning.
And also, I was just going to add that, you know, there are lots of voice banking providers, and, you know, at the end of the day, it's what people want to use. So whatever people want to use is the right answer for them. It's just that all we've done here, and we're going to try, you know, with everything, is just enable their decisions to be used on the technology they use. That's it. They make the call. It's exactly how it should be. They decide.
Yeah, spot on. And that's one of the reasons why with Predictable we offer all the options. So then the user decides what is preferable for them, how it's getting funded, how they're accessing that voice. And, you know, there are those who use Model Talker with all their legacy voices that were created, 7-8 years ago. And, you know, it's become their identity. So they want to preserve it and continue using it. So I suppose it's offering another option, and I'm looking forward to what comes next as well. But if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to go out and see if there are any other questions in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I suppose that is a wrap, everybody. If you have any other questions relating to Predictable, then absolutely feel free to come and speak to us at info@therapy-box. You can also set up a free training. We can talk about ElevenLabs, but also of all the other features that we've seen. If you've got any questions relating to M&D or funding specifically relating to M&D, then speak to Richard and Rachel, who are here as well. But keep those great ideas coming, because Richard brought this idea to us. We got very excited, and we love building. So if there are other ideas that you've noticed and you would like us to take a look at, then we would be delighted. With that, I say thank you very much for attending.
Thanks
Richard,
all. Really good
Ali,
stuff. Thank you.
thank you, everybody.